United States submarine base at Key West, Florida. A dispatch that quoted President Truman's press secretary, Charles Ross, as saying that President Truman has no knowledge of any secret project by this government that would give substance to the existence of such objects. Ross also said that both the Air Force and the Navy deny that such objects exist.
Oh, hey. Oh, she's coughing. Or sneezing. I don't know. I can't tell. She's really red. What was that?
I don't know, man. Like a frog in my throat. It just suddenly, my passage was blocked, but all I was doing was just sitting here waiting to push record. I hadn't even drank or anything.
Did you choke on your spit? Happens to the best of us.
I didn't. It felt like I really needed to clear my throat, but my whole throat was blocked.
Okay, good. Just a little bit of mucus. Speaking of mucus, hey, what's up? My name is Noelle, and if you're listening to this, it's probably too late. But if you're a time traveler, we'll see you at FurryCon tomorrow, which is today.
It's going to be... And I'm Chelsea. I haven't felt genuine excitement for anything like I have for going to FurryCon. I'm so fucking excited.
We're mostly there for the furry sexuality and mental health, but are also going to be seeing things such as furry dance circles and apparently a snowboarder skier meetup.
Yeah, that one took us by surprise. We are going to interview some people too if they're willing to talk to us. I genuinely want to learn.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? We have to come in letting them know the energy that like we're there, you know what I mean? Not to make fun of them, but to learn and be educated. And,
and
that's all we try to do. Yeah, and have fun. There's probably things that I do that they think are interesting and odd. So
I am just so excited to be put into something that I have yet to step a toe into in terms of like nerdy culture, right?
That's actually such a valid point. It is a level of nerd culture and being a part of a fandom, so much so that it like has aspects in your life, such as like role playing or dress up or cosplay or costume making, whatever it may be.
It's like, why are they so different than any other cosplay or kink or community? Like we have the Mandalorian group that does like there's similar parades of what the furry groups are doing, but why is it so different? I need someone there to explain it to me.
Yeah, I also need to see what the point of it is, because I know that not all of them are there because of sexy times. So it's going to be fun. We're going to learn a lot and see a lot.
Why is it different from other cosplay, and do they even consider it cosplay at this point?
That's a good question.
So I do want to ask them these sorts of things. If the people are willing to talk to us, we're just going to walk up and ask them, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't have press credentials. We're paying to get in.
Mm-hmm. She's coughing in. Yeah, I'm like, maybe we should like have a sign that says willing to talk to us or something.
Yeah, please. Like, I don't know. That means I have to make a sign or you have to make a sign.
You would have to make the sign. We know this.
I don't want to make
supplies.
A sign. No,
you have the supplies.
I used all my supplies to make posters and then I put them up in the window. Yeah, I had to go buy poster board at Walmart.
Yeah, poster board's $1.
Well, why don't you go get it?
You have more supplies, like paints and brushes.
Do you have a marker?
No, I don't even have a pen.
I feel like do you have an eyeliner?
I am not using my eyeliner. Fucking... just make a goddamn sign. Anyway, speaking of signs.
I probably won't, but I hope
you will. Speaking of signs.
Might not.
Yes, you are. Speaking of signs.
I feel like you're trying to bully me into it, and like you're gaslighting me into doing something in the future, and I don't even know. If I wake up early and I don't feel shitty, I can make a sign for sure. But if I feel shitty,
that doesn't count because everyone feels shitty when they wake up.
You can get up and go get exactly what I would need, which is a big ass marker. Or you get the poster board and we make it at the convention, and I'll bring my marker.
You're being so unreasonable.
I'm spreading the workout like a peanut butter sandwich.
No.
I just can't believe you're putting the evil of having to go to Walmart on me.
Yeah. Your Walmart's better than mine. Mine's Nightmare on 13th Walmart.
Ugh. Mine has like racist cowboys in it.
So does every Walmart.
Not the Salt Lake one. It just has homeless people.
It has racist cowboys and crackheads.
It has raceless homeless people.
I was just personally victimized by a crackhead, and you're gonna subject me to that again?
Did you notice that the only reaction that was a laugh emoji was mine when you posted the picture in our work group? You're like, a crackhead kicked my car. Everyone was like sad or shocked, and I just laughed and laughed.
As you should, though. As you should.
Yeah, I'm not posting
for those
it
who
for
don't
sympathy.
know.
I'm posting. Yeah. Can I tell the story?
Yeah, go for it.
Noel's car got missile kicked by a crackhead, and he dented it to the core.
To the point where the whole entire car door has to be replaced.
Yeah, it's not just like a tiny dent. It looks like looks like a rhino from Jumanji ran into your car.
Straight up.
It was insane.
For those who want more details, I was just minding my own business at a stop sign, and he came off the sidewalk in the middle of the street and missile kicked my fucking car. And he looked. Think of I'm gonna say skinny, blonde but yellowish hair, white crackhead, not heroin, crack or meth. I need you to envision that. Whatever slide just came into your mind's eye, that's what he looked like. Crazy. One tooth.
I'm thinking a very thin Boris Johnson.
Yeah, literally a very thin, gaunt face, one tooth, dirty, pants on the ground, hand wrapped in a bandana, bleeding, just growling and snarling.
Yeah.
And then running into the street to kick my car just because the pipe was
for the love of the game. Yeah.
Just truly for the love of the game. And it was 10 in the fucking morning. It was 10 in the fucking morning.
It's so funny. Honestly, I wish him well.
You're such a
maybe
fucking
he's a
bitch.
friend of the homeless guy you ran down in your car a few years ago.
My only regret is that I didn't hit this bitch. That's my.
I know you chased him down. You flipped a Yui.
I did chase him down. I did because here's the thing. For those who don't know, I've hit a crackhead and I'll do it again. I'll do it again. Put me on the record. I don't fucking care. And so he did this to my car, and I didn't even know the damage at this point.
Yeah.
I was just obviously staying in my fucking car, and I was like, damn, that was crazy, huh? And then he's in the street, running back in the middle of the street, fucking with people. And this is a fairly busy area. So he's fucking with people coming out of the McDonald's parking lot. He's fucking with people walking their dogs. And I said, guess what, bitch?
Yeah. Not today.
You're high on crack. I'm high on life. And I flipped a fucking bitch. I flipped a bitch and I floored it going straight at him because he was in the middle of the street throwing rocks at dogs. And that sounds funny, but it's so sad. So I floor it at him to the point where you could hear my car going and then I slam on my brakes. Right, because I know at this point the dimensions of space that I need before hitting a person because I've done it.
You're flexing on him at this point.
I was like, bitch. So I slam on the brakes and then slam on my horn, and I'm just double flipping him off, and I'm screaming fuck you, die in a gutter, and shit like that. And then he fucking takes off, and then I go and because I'm literally in my neighborhood, I'm 10 feet away from my fucking apartment, and I pull into my spot, I get on my car, I'm like, I'm gonna go see what damage is done here. I bet it's just a shoe print. No. And then I see the goddamn door is caved in. And I was like, and then I went full fucking Punisher. I got back in the car and I was just fucking gripping fucking every vein in my neck and arms popping out, gripping my steering wheel, grinding my teeth, going up and down every single street, funny. All over the road, just being like, where the fuck is he?
Just someone coming out of fucking nowhere and kicking your car and then chasing people walking their dogs and then just disappearing like a thief in the night while you're zigzagging around the neighborhood.
Like a crazy
yelling
person.
Profanities into the space-time.
I was literally doing a full sweep. I might as well had a fucking gun with a flashlight on it because I was doing a fucking government sweep, brother. I was going up and down.
What were you going to do if you found him? Just hit him
beat his ass.
No, you wouldn't have. You would have probably hit him with your car and got him in jail.
Same thing in my book, baby. Same thing in my book. Oh man, after I saw the damage, I was like, this is very Karen of me, whatever. I don't care. I don't fucking care. Fuck you. If you're on the side of the crackhead, come to my house and fight me too. So I was like, the moment I saw the damage, I was like, I didn't know how the process was going to go with like filing a claim, making a police report to use for my claim. And I was like, what if they need to like physically see him and like interview him or something? Like they need physical proof because like, wouldn't everyone just be like, oh, I crashed my fucking car. Oh, it was vandalized. And then
luckily
like,
there's a whole ass shoe print.
I mean, there was a whole ass shoe print, but like, you know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't, maybe I needed him there. So I was like, hopefully going to find him and then call in the people I made the initial report to and be like, he's on this street and this street, like come here, whatever. So there would be actually evidence that, because he was probably still be doing crazy shit, that like, it happened and whatever. So that was like my logic. Also probably because I wanted to cause harm to him. And that just is what it is, baby.
He started it.
Yeah, he started it and I'll finish it.
I just think the bull. You were just trying to get him the horns as promised.
Well, he clearly wanted the smoke. Clearly, he came off the sidewalk. I don't know
what he wanted, but he wanted.
He wanted the smoke. He came off the sidewalk. Everyone's minding their own business at 10 in the fucking morning on a fucking Wednesday, and I'm just I'm even the second car back. I'm the second car at a stop sign, and we're watching a guy on a motorized bike cross, and we're like, oh yeah, look at us. We're respecting the laws of the road. And out of nowhere, off of the sidewalk, a crackhead who looks like he's been underground for the last 20 years comes out and just, at first I thought he was going to get in my car. I was like, oh shit, it's about to be one of those situations. But my car is automatically locked, so it's no big deal. And then he just full-blown, full-body ninja kicks the car door in. So clearly he wanted the smoke. So I should have just given it to him fully. You know what I mean? Oh,
so funny. Best thing I've heard all week. When you sent me that picture and you're like, a fucking crackhead! And I opened the picture and it's like a perfect shoe print in the middle of it. And then just, it's like the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, right? But at the very center of it, a perfect boot. It was art.
It literally
was art.
The saddest part was that my car was parked outside when it rained last night, and so the shoe print was washed away. But thankfully, I have pictures of it.
Yeah.
God, if I ever see that little bitch again, it's on.
It's on.
It's on. I'm gonna kick it
down in your rental car.
That rental car is so nice. No fucking way. I'm gonna get out of it. I'm gonna park it a block away, and I'm gonna run at him. We're just gonna kick at each other. We're gonna kick at each other until someone figures it out.
Oh, it's gonna be amazing. Yeah, just like when you're fighting with your siblings and you fall down on the ground, so you just have to kick your legs.
Yep.
In a melee. It's like if you come closer, it's on you. Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah, I think you'll do great.
Thank you. So anyway, I'm still looking.
Don't you wish you could go back and change it all?
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about today. More stories out of time. This is part 2 of our Hadron Collider funsy story power hour, I guess you could say.
Let's fucking do it.
All right. So, hello. Part 2, emphasis on the syllables of the Hadron Collider. So, a quick recap from last week. We talked about Vasily Gorgos, a mysterious man from Tarid, and the Woolrich Foot Tunnel. And all of these things relate to breaks in time, and we warned listeners that these sorts of anomalies are likely to increase now that the Hadron Collider has been turned back on and scientists continue to run tests on the God particle. I am running out of breath before I finish a sentence.
Yeah, you're
having
really
an asthma attack.
Can you hear me breathe? Oh my god, it sounds like a windstorm.
Dude, the sky outside has just been brown all day, and I think it's fucking with me. I'm gonna do my best.
Jesus.
So the God particle, aka the Higgs boson, I looked it up, is the physical proof of an invisible, universal-wide field that gave mass to all matter right after the Big Bang, forcing particles to coalesce into stars, planets, and everything else. No Higgs, no mass, no you, me, or anything else.
You want to know something fun?
I do.
that I saw briefly for a second, so I could totally be paraphrasing it incorrectly. And at this point, I don't care.
Sure.
You know how all the pictures came out from the Webb telescope with NASA this week, and they
Yeah.
were very. Everyone was either like, "This is beautiful" or "This is terrifying," and life is meaningless. But there were also people in the middle who were like the scientists, and they were like, "Hey, it's probably looking like the calcium that is in our teeth, like the same matter and material that's in our teeth, is also what came from the stars." And I think that is very
neat.
cool and very fun.
I got a shitty star that's full of cavities.
Yeah, same. You're telling me, brother. This past year has been 2K down the drain.
So this episode, if we can make it through with our terrible dentals, we're going to jump right back into these strange occurrences in time, starting with what UFOinsight.com and Mysterious Universe call the account of Douglas. It was in the small town of Austintown, Ohio in 1981 that we will jump into today. Interested in renting property in the area, Douglas and his father ventured out to take a look at the place and arrived early in the morning around 6 a.m. The property itself was a little unkempt, with most of the garden and grasses giving the appearance that the place had been neglected for some time. While the father and son peered through the windows, they happened across an open side door and decided to venture inside.
What?
I don't think I meant to put that sentence in there. Nothing, I'm
What?
confusing myself. So, deciding to give it a quick once over after they found the open door, the duo descended into the dark subterranean level of the house and discovered that there wasn't much to look at in the basement. So, quoting Douglas's account on the Mysterious Universe, Dad proceeded to go down the steps, but I was leery. I went down. The basement was small. There was an old Ringer washer with a loaded revolver on the lid.
Yikes.
It was like the silver and ivory handled cap guns that kids use today. I picked it up 4 inches off the lid, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a light cord moving. The lights went out, and the door slammed shut. It was so dark that you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. I felt aimlessly for my dad. Holding his shirt, we went up the stairs. At the top, he stopped and let out a blood-curdling scream. It made my blood run cold. I pushed him, and he pushed the door open. All the lights were on, and it was dark outside.
It's probably a blood-curdling scream because he's saying there were ivory-handled cap guns for kids.
Maybe.
Ivory-handled cap guns for kids?
Ivory? Kids don't deserve ivory.
Ivory? Like elephant tusk?
Probably fake ivory. 'Cause they have
Murdering
that,
elephants?
ivory decor.
Sounds a little problematic to me.
Yeah. So
Also, you're breathing into the microphone
I
like
cannot
like an
fucking
elephant.
breathe at all, dude. I don't know what to do.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a pretty good job.
Fucking struggling, man. If I black out, just finish the rest of the episode and we'll figure it out in the morning. The ensemble rushed out to their truck where they finally checked the clock in the vehicle, and that's when they realized that their quick glimpse at the basement had eaten up what they estimated to be a couple of hours out of their day. Their watches matched their own account for time, though, saying that they had only been in the home for about 5 minutes. To add to the high strangeness of what they had experienced, though, both men nearly stumbled over a freshly killed lamb who lay alone in the garage bleeding from a large neck wound.
Jesus, why'd that have to happen?
I have no idea. But they put the pedal to the metal and got out of there like a bat out of hell. And it wasn't until they got home that they realized that they hadn't just lost a chunk of their day, but had actually been gone for a whopping 21 hours. In fact, when they got home, they nearly ran into their own search team. Most strange is that Douglas's father never said what caused him to scream like a maniac at the top of the stairs, only that it had been, quote, something.
God, what a typical father of a boomer. Just suppress and repress. You know what I mean? Why would we talk about anything that we saw that scared us or made us had feelings of uncomfortableness or fear?
If my dad just started screaming like a blood-curdling scream, I'd probably black out. Not for me. That would be terrifying.
But I just like the idea of like whatever he saw maybe could like answer some questions or at least propose more theories or give even if it says it doesn't make sense, it could maybe like paint a little bit of a picture as to what happened or what they're dealing with. But rather than do any of that, because protecting his own admittance to human emotion, we all are in the dark about
Maybe
what
he doesn't
happened.
know, or maybe he can't explain it. You know what I mean? Maybe it was
I
just such a
bet-
like overcome feeling of dread that
Absolutely
he just screamed.
not. I know that this man saw it. I bet he could give a sketch artist a perfect, clear depiction of what he saw. What you're mistaking, though, because I get very much like 1940s father from this, is
Mhm.
that he would much rather like beat his son with a belt in the front yard than admit that he was scared once and admit to what
Suffer
scared
in
him.
silence, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
you
he
know
doesn't
how it
want to
is.
pass that evil onto his son.
No, you are thinking too graciously.
You're not thinking graciously enough.
I know the time era and period that we're dealing with here. You need to accept reality.
The 80s? When did they go?
I don't know. It gives 1940s or 50s to me.
1981. But the dad
know
would have
what?
been probably born in the 40s.
That's what I'm saying. You know, the 80s were the perfect time to get beat by your dad and have no parental supervision because they were too busy ignoring you. So, you know.
I will say, as a child of the 80s, my father did not beat me and loved me very, very much, Noelle.
You were too late in the 80s to really be
You're
a
right.
child of the 80s.
You're absolutely right. Also, my father feared me. He feared my repercussions. Nothing? All right. So let's talk about perception and how it impacts our reality. A lot of what we have covered so far has mostly been about loss of time and loss of distance, really. So we saw time with Douglas and his father losing 21 hours in the span of 5 minutes, and we saw loss of distance with the Woolwich Tunnel seemingly transporting men from one side of the Thames River to the other. But now let's talk about déjà vu. You see, in most cases we mentioned previously, there are people who escaped their paradox, even if it took them decades or hours to do so. But there are other accounts where, for one reason or another, people are stuck in the ever-rotating hell of the time loop with no way to escape. So, from an article published by the BBC, in 2015, a seemingly healthy 23-year-old British man found his way into the office of Dr. Chris Moulin, a renowned cognitive neuropsychologist who did most of his work in France. This man complained of an affliction, which immediately led the doctor to put together an elite team of doctors and scientists to see if they could figure out what was going on. The patient described that he had been living in and out of a time loop for the past 8 years, an affliction that the doctors eventually just referred to as constant déjà vu. Now, we have all experienced déjà vu in our lifetime, and it's statistically unlikely that you'll ever meet somebody who hasn't had that feeling that they're experiencing something that they've already experienced before. The term, coined by French philosopher Émile Bourak in 1867, translates to already seen. News-medical.net states, quote, first defined in 1983, déjà vu is an exceedingly common mental state that is transitory in nature, described as subjectively inappropriate impression of familiarity of a present experience with an undefined past. Although there are no real good explanations of déjà vu scientifically, most agree that it is the brain's attempt at a biological sort of fact-checking. Now and then, those perceptions can line up with memories, which causes the sensation that you're experiencing something the exact same way you have before. What's different in the case of Dr. Moulin's patient is that he had the feeling of déjà vu nearly constantly.
I just think this man maybe touched some acid. Do you know what I'm saying?
We'll talk about that.
Is it a theory? Did he admit to it? Did he admit? What do you mean no? I would also say no too if I had. I'd be like, absolutely not, I didn't do that.
I mean, if you're at that point where you're actually going to go to the doctors and you're ready to die, I'm sure you don't have any. Also, it's France. They don't care if you do drugs.
That's true.
It's not like you went for treatment in the United States.
That's true.
Ridiculous.
Where he wouldn't be able to afford it.
No. So according to the BBC again, Dr. Moulin stated, quote, there was one instance where he went to get a haircut. As he walked in, he got a feeling of déjà vu. Then he had déjà vu of the déjà vu, and he couldn't think of anything else.
That just sounds like the worst trip of all time.
Dude, could you imagine perpetual déjà vu, like nonstop?
That would be miserable.
And eventually, the man refused to do anything because he was so terrified that the loop would pop back up for him. Imagine living in a nightmare where you couldn't read, watch TV, leave the house, walk with friends. You could do absolutely nothing but sit at the fucking doctor and get your brain scanned because you were so terrified that you would be
dragged back to the very beginning of your nightmare over and over again. And remember, this guy said he was in a time loop. The doctors just said it was consistent deja vu. So
Well, like,
the
the
way
thing
they're
about
defining
it-
his reality is a little off.
Well, also him saying like a nightmare. If your nightmare is like every single day you relive getting a haircut, I just feel like that's not really that. It could be worse.
It's compounding, right? Like, it's not just a haircut. It's now you can't talk to people, you can't watch TV, you can't read, you have a hard time eating. Because, like, literally anything you do other than just nothing gives you that overwhelming sense of dread. And that's what the doctors are describing as deja vu, remember? This guy is saying he's in a fucking time loop. He's like, I am experiencing the same things over and over again. And if I do anything, I don't know if it's going to trigger me out and put me back in the time loop periodically. So it was
Well,
like,
I guess that's the thing to point out about the different definitions, because like deja vu isn't necessarily a negative thing, but what he's experiencing, he has an oh my God, I can't speak. An overwhelming sense of dread. That's different than just experiencing deja vu.
well, and it's also just like understanding that he's saying he's in a fucking time loop. And he's like, the doctor's like, you have deja vu. And he's like, I understand that's how you want to say it. But what I'm telling you is that I am being passed in and out of the same fucking thing over and over again. He's like, I might be walking down the street right now, but I could kick a pizza box and then immediately be back in that moment from like 8 years ago while I'm still here, is like what he's saying is happening to him. And the doctors
Okay.
are like, it's got to just be deja vu.
Okay.
Which is interesting because then it makes you think, like, is my deja vu, since we don't know what actually causes it, we're just throwing darts at the dartboard to see what sticks, but that would be a really interesting theory if it's coming into contact with like a parallel reality. You know what I mean? Like, there's 1,000 different us's, millions of different us's out there if you like think of alternate dimensions, right?
Yeah.
And this guy just happens to be vibrating at such an energy that he is constantly being pulled between one and the other. And the doctors don't know what to do other than call it deja vu.
Well, yeah, because even like there's a Healthline article about mental health and what causes deja vu. And one of the theories is minor brain circuit malfunctions. It's a theory that suggests that deja vu happens when your brain, quote, glitches, so to speak, and experiences a brief electrical malfunction similar to what happens during an epileptic seizure. In other words, it can happen as a sort of mix-up when the part of your brain that tracks present events and the part of your brain that recalls memory are both active. But that doesn't explain, like a brain glitch doesn't explain present and past, right? I guess because like deja vu often happens to some, like when you're doing something completely brand new and you're just like, I've done this before.
Yeah.
And it's not recalling a memory. It's basically just being like, because how can your memory recall something that you've never seen before? So
yeah,
I don't know.
And then it's getting perpetually worse because he remembers getting deja vu about the memory popping up. So it's like, also imagine like the mind fuck that causes, where you're literally being stuck in this time loop and then you're getting deja vu about the fucking time loop.
Yeah. Because like the whole thing, because I get like this theory, but even it's basically saying like a wrong rewiring, right?
Yeah.
It's the cognizant awareness of what you're seeing and what you're doing, but the sensation of a memory, not necessarily a tangible memory, the sensation overcrossing. But there's even been deja vu that I've experienced where it's you're predicting seeing something that you haven't even seen because the deja vu is making you remember where it is, what it was, what it looked like, and you haven't even come up to that. Does that make sense? So like how could those wires cross? It's almost like you're predicting the future because of the deja vu.
Well, there's different forms of deja vu, right? There's like, what's it called? Like presque-vu? No.
I didn't even know there was different types of deja vu.
There's like Genève vu. Let me pull it up.
Oh yeah, there is presque vu.
Je ne vu is one that I get a lot, and it's where you experience. It's the experience of being unfamiliar with a person or a situation that is actually very familiar. So there are points where like I'll look at like Oliver, for example, and I'll be like, looking at him out of my good eye and being like, is that my fucking boyfriend? And then I snap back into it and I'm like, that's my boyfriend. Or if I'm driving home, I'll like look out, and I've lived in Utah my whole life. I've done the drive from Salt Lake to Ogden 1,000 times. I will like literally look out the window and be like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like,
Yeah.
You just passed Lagoon. Like, I get jamais vu all the time. And that's different than déjà vu. Déjà vu is already seen. Jamais vu is never seen. I get that all the fucking
It's like
time.
jamais vu is like you don't recognize something ordinary or familiar.
Yeah.
And I've even experienced this pre-psychedelics where like you just catch yourself in a reflection or in the mirror a certain way, and you just like look at yourself and you forget who you are, what you are.
Mm-hmm.
That happened to me so much when I was younger. Like I would be getting ready to go to school in the morning and I would just catch myself in the like glass of the bathroom and be like, wait, what am I? What is that? Who is that? So that one's terrifying.
Yeah.
And then presque vu is failure to remember something with the sense that recall is imminent.
That's like the tip of your tongue phenomenon.
Yeah.
Essentially, where you're like, I fucking know what this is, and then you can't pull it out. I get that all the time too, because I'm stupid.
Yeah, same. That one is not really relatable to me in the sense of déjà vu because it just happens because I have the memory of a rock.
Right. So, but I'm actually really happy that you brought up like the epilepsy and things like that, because there are conditions of the brain that can cause some people to experience these sorts of anomalies more. However, the doctors did put him through the ringer for any and all tests that could determine if a person would be more likely to experience déjà vu at an alarmingly consistent rate, but they found nothing. And they literally tested this man from the inside out, top to bottom, and could not find a single cell in his body that would explain why he was reliving the same moments over and over and over again. Even Dr. Christine Wells, who works at a Sheffield Hallam University, published her findings on the case in the Journal of Medical Case Reports, saying that this man had no cases of epilepsy, seizures, or dementia. And in fact, she believed he was far too young to even have experienced any of those things for the first time, even if he did have them. She was like, he's not falling in with it, like within the window where this pops up or where this would be like a pre-existing condition. And she also witnessed the anxiety and desperation of this man stuck in his own time loop, begging her for help. And all she could really do for him at the end of the day was she just gave him anxiety medicine. And she's like, I understand that it sucks. Let's just take the edge off. And that's literally all they could fucking do.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't there like, because I mean, this sounds horrible, but wouldn't just like being so drugged up and high to the point where like your brain can't even fire off these things from happening, like wouldn't that be a better version of reality than just the constant suffering of it?
Dude, I don't know. I guess speaking from experience with like OCD, the medicine does take the edge off and it never really goes away. But without the medicine, it's non-functioning. But it's a constant suffering of like thoughts, followed by actions.
You're still even being functional in society with OCD. Imagine if like they just have to take you out. They just have to take you out of society and you just exist kind of numbly. You know what I mean?
Like in an I think you'd probably have to be institutionalized if you were that miserable that you could not function without being consistently sedated.
Yeah.
But and imagine like the desperation of if after 8 years of living this, you're finally like, I'm going to go to the doctor knowing that they're going to call me crazy. But also imagine the frustration of the doctors just being like, it's déjà vu.
Yeah. Also, I wonder what happened that like triggered it because he wasn't born with it. Like, what happened? Do you know what I mean?
You just fucking time loop got out of whack, man.
Just one
Loki
day
went in with the time authority. Yeah.
Yeah, the time cops weren't there.
Tom Hiddleston did it. Something interesting did happen, though, after this doctor published her findings in the medical journal, and it was something she didn't expect, and that was essentially more and more people were coming forward with their own ground dog day renditions of their repetitive hell.
Groundhog Day.
What'd I say?
Ground Day. Ground Dog, I think you said. You didn't
I
say
think
it
I'm
right.
having a stroke. Look at
Yeah,
my hair is more frazzled.
You are losing it a little bit.
I'm not getting enough oxygen to my brain.
Oh, you never are, so.
Like slowly suffocating in here. One man named Ryan Bratton even made a report stating, I was passed out on that one. This is a quote from the Mysterious Universe. His quote, he claims that one day he was sitting in his yard with a friend when something very strange happened indeed, which he would describe as a car came down the road and stopped at a house. A kid got out and ran inside making noises that kids make around his age. Then a girl rode her bike down the driveway. A couple of minutes after this happened, the same car went down the road, stopped at the house, and the same kid got out of the car and ran inside, screaming the exact same things he had been saying. Then the girl went down the hill on her bike again. I looked over to my friend, and he said he had no idea what just happened. So this one's
so they
rare.
both saw it.
Exactly. So these are the ones that started to come out where multiple people start experiencing these anomalies, right? And then at that point, it's like, if a doctor's going to try to slap the label of deja vu on it, is there like shared deja vu? I mean, I know that they have shared psychosis as a thing, but makes you wonder.
Dude, after seeing those crazy pictures of space and seeing how small and insignificant we are in comparison to the vast majority of things, and yet we've developed to like this version of society, and our brains have developed to like this version of understanding and communication and whatever, it would not shock me to think that there are just statistically, just like we're blipping in and out, or could like crash into a different dimension or a different timeline or a different version of ourselves. Like that doesn't surprise me. Like, if anything, I would describe space as real magic. It's real science and it's real magic. But to think that like there's no rewind, fast forward, pause and play or skip button to reality, I think is such a silly concept when you look at us like in comparison to the vast, unmeasurable entity around us.
Or
like
it's a possibility that we just haven't discovered yet.
Yeah, 1,000%.
That's also like the time traveler paradox. Like if time travel was possible, then we would have already known about it because someone would have traveled back in time.
Who's to say they have?
But time travel could also be accidental. You know what I mean? Like it could be with people like this.
Time travel could also not necessarily be back on this plane, but a different one.
Yeah, or
like,
time travel creates a new dimension.
Exactly.
And picks up from there.
So you'd never actually come back to this specific one. You'd come to like this specific 1A. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree because you can't say that space is infinite and then eschew the idea that there can't be at least some possibility of time travel.
Exactly.
If we live in infinity, right?
Well, I also think that
mathematically is impossible.
Well, yeah, and that's also the summary of like all the greatest minds of that ever existed have said the same thing.
Yeah, starting with me and ending with you.
Yep, that's it.
Us two. Another one that we're going to talk about is a woman reached out after she read the article in the medical paper stating that her experience with a time loop was different. What she started to see was her past self over and over and over again, believing that her reality was running too close to a parallel one. It was essentially like when you skip a rock across the water and it goes like ping, 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 ping. And each time it would touch, she would see it. So remember in the last episode where we talked about anomalies, where like switching a radio station, like I might be listening to country and then I switch over to a pop station. That country station is still going strong, even though I'm not listening to it.
Yes.
Now what this woman was experiencing was those switching the radio station, but both are playing at the same time. So what she experienced was she was cleaning her home and she had her baby monitor on her just to make sure that the baby was okay. But she wasn't too concerned about it. She really wore it and kept it with her out of habit. And the reason why she was unconcerned was that her 2-year-old was with her husband in the other room at the time. So as she carried on with her daily tasks, she eventually started to focus in more and more on noise that was coming out of the device. And she realized that something very familiar was coming out of the transmitter. So she leaned closer and held the monitor up to her ear and could very distinctly hear a voice coming from the speaker. Confused, she turned up the volume and realized that she was in fact hearing herself reading a book to her toddler. As she held the monitor up to her ear, she positioned herself just enough that she could see her toddler and her husband on the other side of the house. Even stranger, as she approached the toddler's room where she kept the other monitor, the voice coming through eventually faded out until it was replaced by the sound of her timeline as she opened the door and stepped into a very empty room, save for the baby monitor, which was still turned on.
Crazy. That's a good movie plot, honestly.
And when she told her husband about what had happened, he mentioned that he had actually thought she was playing a recording of her reading this book to her son. And it wasn't until she told him what they both had heard was coming from the baby monitor that they just kind of stared at each other in disbelief. And I did look it up. They had a generic baby monitor from Walmart, and there is no way to capture a recording on those monitors to play or listen to later. They are transmitters only. It would be like trying to say that our walkie-talkies could play a recording, right? The only way they could do that is if you held a recording up to it, held the button down, and played it.
Yeah.
So the only thing that would explain that then is that someone or somewhere had to have been speaking into the monitor at the very same time the mother was listening to herself talking to her toddler through the monitor on another timeline while she was staring at her toddler with her husband in the other room.
Well, I think the radio waves analogy like paints as close to a clear picture with this one as you can get. If you think of like different dimensions or different timelines as radio waves and radio frequency, just like our timeline is the country radio station and we can flip on to a different one and listen to, 90s R&B, that country station is still going. You're just not on it. And I even think about it like with that analogy of like blipping through different timelines and realities, and also like the time traveling of like fast forward, rewind, pause, play. If we've created those things for our caveman little lizard brains in our little fucking monkey realities, like how would that not be a version of reality in which that those same functions are on like a massive scale, as in like with time and space and reality? Like if you can do it for a movie, why can't you do it? Why can't it exist out there that's how people can like, or you could flip through life or whatever.
And you see patterns in nature all the time. This radio waves is just merely, or like sound waves, like light waves. These are all just merely patterns that we observe through science, and this is just a new pattern that we don't.
Yeah, we just haven't picked up on.
Yet.
Yeah, exactly. It all makes sense, man. It all makes sense, man.
So, how do we explain these differences in time perception and reality? Now, obviously, we want to blame the Hadron Collider in Switzerland, and we wouldn't be wrong to do so. Fuck that. Fuck that collider. Where's the bird with the baguette to save us all?
Yeah, get that bitch in there.
So, in fact, the collider has displaced things in time before. Now, we've been blaming it, we've been blaming all this stuff on messing with time on the collider this whole time, but let's dial in and focus
to the
on
real culprit, who is Tom Hiddleston. Get that man in here.
That's the end of the episode.
Get him in here. Let's start questioning him.
I know, Tom, I know you're listening. Please reach out. You have my number already. One of the most prominent examples went down not too long ago, and that is actually kind of a long time ago, November 2009.
That is a long time ago, you fucking weirdo. Why would you say that?
I don't know.
Jeez.
But anyway, interestingly enough, this information came straight out of a Kremlin report, which was tracking the cause of a powerful blackout that occurred in Bolivia. In this report, the Kremlin states that the Hadron Collider was in the middle of a test with gravitational waves. Unfortunately, the sleazy mistress of science seduced the scientists into getting tunnel vision and not realizing what they were actually doing, which was, of course, distorting the Earth's magnetic field.
Whoa.
The waves of energy of the Hadron Collider were fluctuating so out of control that eventually one fired off in the same way our sun could emit the energy from a massive solar storm and kill us all. And by tracking the physical disturbances this test caused, the Kremlin was able to determine that the focus of the energy blast was heading straight for the Andes in Bolivia. As soon as the wave hit South America, there was turmoil. Flight A7301 was in the final stages of preparing for landing in Santa Cruz when they suddenly touched down a whopping 5,000 miles away. The pilot, seasoned and well-respected, refused to believe that he would have made such an error, claiming that if he even did land at the wrong airport on a different fucking continent, there's no way tracking and radar wouldn't have picked him up or picked up on his error the fucking second he started to veer off course.
Yeah.
And while there were no side effects impacting the crew and passengers, it took a full day for them to get everything settled and to get the plane refueled and make its journey back home. So to clarify, he was going to touch down in Santa Cruz, South America, and ended up accidentally touching down in Santa Cruz, Spain. And they're trying to say it was a radar malfunction as if he wouldn't fucking notice that he crossed the Atlantic.
That's a fun one.
And he was literally in touchdown with the airport saying, like, am I good to touch down? And, like, I feel like people know enough that in post 9/11 world, airplanes can't just fucking land.
Yeah, air traffic control is they're about where you're at, what time you're going to be there, what direction you're in, the speed you're in. They knew you were going to show up before you showed up.
Yeah, and while planes can go missing, I'm not going to deny that, but a plane veering 5,000 miles off course is going to be told about it before they get to 5,000 miles off course.
Yeah.
But strangely enough, the CERN's Hadron Collider shut down their experiment despite initial reports that where they said it was a massive success. And to put the cherry on top of it all, the director for research and scientific computing at CERN made several statements claiming that they had reached a breakthrough with previously unknown natural phenomena, and even dropped the idea that there could be extra dimensions that they could tap into. But in other portions of the report, which came from the Kremlin, they made a note of massive power outages and even found a report of an emergency with a dam having gone offline due to atmospheric discharges in Bolivia. Even more interesting, this region in Bolivia suffered 2 massive earthquakes in the days that follow. And these monsters at CERN just turned it back on this month, and look at how the world has already somehow gotten so much worse. We have had tornadoes in Utah. Utah does not get fucking tornadoes.
And
do you want to know why? Because we are in the mountains.
Yeah. Geographically, doesn't make sense. We've had 2. One on July 3rd and one just the other day.
Yeah. We have earthquakes. Yep. Nazis.
We have so many Nazis.
It won't ever end until someone realizes that the Hadron Collider will destroy us all.
That's true. That's very true.
And the bird with the baguette.
Bring that bitch back. I need that bitch to show up.
SOS.
I need someone to get the fucking French bird with the goddamn baguette and the cigarette in its mouth to fucking handle shit. Because I'm sick of it. Yeah. I'm fucking sick of it. Dude. But I'll tell you what I'm not sick of. People going to the link tree on our bio.
I was hoping you'd say FurryCon, but I knew it wasn't.
Also FurryCon. What were you going to say?
FurryCon.
You said dude. Oh, were you just going to talk about how you're excited for FurryCon?
Did I say dude? Dude, yeah. I think I'm genuinely having a fucking stroke. Or the Hadron Collider's coming for me. That's why it's 86 degrees in this room and only this room, despite having air conditioning.
Yeah, you're in a bit of a wormhole. But you know what's not a wormhole? Going to the link tree in our bios, any of ours. I'm at Noelle Fain. Chelsea is at Sithlard. Look at it, I didn't call you that. And we are at Go to Hell Podcast on all the things. You can find that link in there and get some pro-choice resources. God, now you're getting me sick with mental illness. You can also find a link to our merch page, where you can get cool fucking shit like the cult member university tee, the wanted poster, and of course the Protect Trans Kids merch, which all proceeds go to helping trans organizations. You can also find a link for Kelly Holloran or at Wildwood Owl on Etsy's stickers and pins and all her cool shit. The cool shit she does on her own, which is awesome, and the cool shit she does for us, which is awesome as well. You can get a link to our Discord server, our Facebook group, and again, I don't know why, but if you needed to, I don't know how you're listening to us, links to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But most importantly, you can find a link to support us on Patreon. $1 gets you in. Don't forget, you signed an NDA. Fun episode this week. We talked about maybe allegedly panels for FanX. Allegedly. And it's also where you'll find our coverage of FurryCon, which we are attending tomorrow, which to you is today, or maybe later in the future, which wraps in perfectly.
Yeah, I gotta edit and post this.
What do you mean?
What do you mean edit? No. It depends on when I edit and post this episode.
Yeah.
What if I'm all caught up in the hustle and bustle of FurCon and I have to put it out on Saturday?
Well, let's hope that's not the case.
Saturday. No, tomorrow's Friday. Jesus.
That's what I'm saying. We're jumping timelines as it happens.
Oh my God.
Chelsea almost flashed me. Jesus Christ. You know who wouldn't care that Chelsea almost just flashed me? Our number one friend and fan of the podcast, fan of everyone listening, fan of me, even a fan of Chelsea. And that's why I want to say, hail Satan.
Oh man, hail that smell of burnt toast that's overcoming my entire brain cavity right now.
Yeah, go to bed or something.
I'm going to.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.